Greetings to all in the love and light of the one infinite creator. My name is Jonathan Tong, and I'm facilitator for the Seattle Law of One study group. We can be found on the list of study groups on the LNL research website shown on your screen. We can also be found on Facebook. We do meet on Zoom at the time shown on your screen, and I would encourage all to contact us at the email address shown on your screen if you would like to join us for our Tuesday or Saturday sessions, or join us for future Q&As with Jim or other members of the LNL research channeling team. We do also have a channel on YouTube where we keep recordings of previous Q&A sessions, and I would encourage you to hit the subscribe button to get notifications of future videos and Q&As. If you click on any of the individual videos, you can see a list of topics and timestamps below, and I would encourage you to check them out and see if there's anything there of interest to you in your spiritual journey. And once again today, we are blessed to be joined by Mr. Jim McCarty for some informal conversation and Q&A about the Law of One and how to live it in our daily lives. How are you doing today, Jim?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
Nice. I heard you still don't have electricity back quite yet it's been almost a week now, right?
Right. It was last Sunday at about noon when the windstorm hit. Um, no, I do have electricity, but it can't be used yet because the technician who's installing my new generator would be electrocuted if we use electricity. So he said this afternoon it will be all set and ready to go. And once again, I will have power.
Oh, good. Well, congratulations to you on another great homecoming event, which was just a week ago. Do you have any thoughts or reflections from this particular event?
Well, homecomings always are such an inspiring time. Everybody that joins, they're here because they're interested in the Law of One in some way, and they want to share it and hear what other people have to share. They want to open their hearts, and love and understanding that progresses throughout the weekend every time. And every time I think that one we just finished is the best ever, and that includes this last one, even with the windstorm. So because there was a couple cars got totaled, and others, a couple that got some minor damage, but the people whose cars were totaled took it with an air of, well, that's material objects. I'm here for spiritual reasons. You can get another car. I can't come to these events very often. So I thought it was once again a wonderful experience. I always enjoy having people here, and I hope we can continue them into the future.
So wonderful. Yeah. Thanks to all who attended, and thanks to all who helped organize. Were there some new folks there who you had not met before?
Oh, there are always folks I have not met before. There were a few.
Nice.
And it's always fun to meet new folks because it's like meeting another facet of a gem, the gem of the creator, and somebody's got their own particular take, a unique take on studying spirituality in general, studying the Law of One in particular. So it's a lot of fun, and you just learn so much with people, just in general. Old friends that you see again, they've all evolved too. New friends you never met, well, you got a whole new array of learning to do and sharing to do.
Indeed. Well, I know folks really enjoyed getting a chance to meet you and hang out as well. And I did want to encourage folks, the best way to be able to join LNL events like the homecoming event there, or the coming home events coming up on the West Coast near Seattle, and East Coast near Philadelphia, and the Europe event in Prague. Go to the LNL research website, find the connect or contact link up at the top, get on the mailing list, and that's probably the best way to get notifications of future events. Otherwise, I do see a number of questions in the chat, and I'm looking forward to getting to those. I did have one question that I wanted to ask for starters, though, Jim, and this is regarding the entity known as Taras Bulba. I believe it was in session 11, question 9, where Ra identified Taras Bulba, Genghis Khan, and Rasputin as three third density entities who were harvested, graduated to fourth density negative. It would appear that Taras Bulba is a fictional character from a book written in 1835. I was just wondering, did you, Carla, Dawn, figure this out fairly soon after that session? And what were your thoughts on the inclusion of that entity with Genghis Khan and Rasputin?
At the time that we got that information, we didn't think too much about it. We never questioned about who Taras Bulba was. I think it was probably 4 years ago in one of our Quo channelings. The Quo was asked about who Taras Bulba was. And the best I can remember as to the response was that Taras Bulba was truly a negatively oriented entity that harvested himself along the service of self path. But he also was able to disguise his being, his presence, by creating himself as a fictional figure, someone that was only located in a book. And they kind of sound weird at the time, but then I thought about it later and I thought, well, negatively oriented entities tend to operate behind the scenes so that you don't know who they are and so they can do their work more effectively without being stopped or run into any difficulties. So that's the best I can give you on Taras Bulba.
No, that makes perfect sense. Thank you. And I did actually do a search through the channeling archives. And yes, it was March 25th, 2023, just about a year ago, when
No,
Gary actually asked a question about that.
it
And,
wasn't as far back in the history that I thought it was.
after 1700 plus of these sessions, yeah, I would imagine they all blur together. I'm amazed if you can remember anything from anything. It is a fascinating answer, though, and yes, my understanding of it is that Quo did express this more or less as you said, and it would kind of make sense that negative entities would prefer to stay out of the spotlight and in the shadows instead. Uh, Much like the Kaiser Sose character from The Usual Suspects, as any fans of that movie would probably know. Hey, I do see some questions in the chat window, so why don't we go ahead and give folks a chance to ask some more questions. Renat, I saw that you had two questions. Would you like to ask one for starters, and then maybe we can come back to you after going through the circle?
Yes. I was, hi, Jim. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you too.
Neely and I are plotting to come to the homecoming in Kentucky next year. Don't know how it's going to happen, but fingers crossed. I was recently pondering again spiritual maturity. And on my own, I thought it has to do with other maturities as well. And then I found some information in the channeling that it's amazing relationship with intellectual maturity, how the spiritual actually cultivates the intellectual maturity. And then I was wondering how it affects the channeling. If there's a group of people who channel together as a group, do they all have to be at a certain spiritual maturity in order for the information, the energy to flow? Is spiritual immaturity or lack of certain level of maturity a hindrance to that?
Well, this is kind of a difficult question for me to answer because it's hard for me to discover how to measure spiritual maturity. In general, I would say spiritual maturity is probably having been on the spiritual path for a long enough period of time, especially for a Law of One student, to see that we are all one, that there is no judgment of others or of self, so that information, when you do channel in groups, that comes through in a way that does not have any blockages of those immature thoughts that, well, I'm better than you, you don't know what you're talking about, anything like that. Also, Carla said that in order to do a better job of channeling, I think that what she suggested would be a kind of an exemplification of spiritual maturity, and that was to furnish your mind with a great deal of concepts that you have gotten from reliable sources. And for us, that was the raw contact and later Quo. So that there is information which you can call upon. Uh, Throughout the years of channeling for LNO research, the Confederation of Planets and the Service of the Infinite Creator have said that they use 70% of their own information to channel through the channel and 30% of the channel's information. So if you have these concepts kind of stored into a bank of information, then you can call upon them, or Quo or Latwii or Hatan or whatever entity is being channeled for LL research can then utilize those concepts and sort of like building a bridge between knowing and not knowing with the concepts, most of which provided by the Confederation and some of which provided by the channels, the instruments. And I think that was one way that they wanted to recognize and validate each spiritual seeker's journey as a channel to use some of those concepts. So that would be the best I could answer.
Thank you. Much to ponder.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you indeed, Renat. Alice, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
I do. Thank you, Jim, so much for being here. It's just a pleasure to be able to ask you questions. I have to look this up. So this morning, someone posted on the Facebook page a part of a transcript about the purpose wanderers have in this density. And it just made so much sense talking about how lightening the planetary consciousness by allowing their I'm having trouble with words this morning, allowing the love and light of the Creator to flow through their energy bodies and open their hearts. And then the quote says, when their hearts are fully open, they're able to bless that energy and send it onwards. And I just got curious about that word bless, what that means in terms of that. Is it a process? Is it something that happens automatically as the love flows? Just curious.
You were saying bless the energy?
Yes.
Okay. I think that would be a good process to follow for anyone, including a wanderer. The energies of lightening the planetary vibrations are, I think, the primary reason that wanderers do come here, because they answer the call of a planet like Earth that is in distress, that has so much energy of anger, confusion, separation, and so forth. And that is something that I think everybody can do, and not just wanderers. Right. But I think that as well, each wanderer has certain talents they bring that they can utilize to be of more service to others. And I don't think there's any specific talent that could be say, well, this is a wanderer's talent, and this is not a wanderer's talent. I think a wanderer can do anything that anybody else can do, as anybody else can do what a wanderer can do. The purpose of the doing whatever they do, the intention is what is the most important thing, to be of service to others and to do it however is their main way, their unique way of being of service. So I think the intention of service is an important thing for wanderers, and that is what helps them to accomplish the task they've set before themselves before they come here. It is my understanding that all wanderers go before the Council of Saturn before they join here and share their desires, their reason for wanting to be here. And it kind of make like a contract, you might say. Right. So they have this support from the higher levels that also is a kind of impetus or energy that they can utilize in being of whatever service they have chosen before incarnation to offer.
What is the blessing part? That's the thing that I was really curious about. Is that just simply the heart opening and the love and light, allowing the love and light of the Creator to flow through, or is it a separate thing?
I think it's exactly what you said. I think it is
Okay.
that setting of intention to be of service,
Uh,
to
okay.
let the love and light of the Creator flow through, because the love and light of the Creator is probably the greatest blessing that we could imagine,
I
and that
imagine.
if we can call upon that, then whatever we do has that intenser vibration that has unity with the Creator and can maybe call to the person is that one is that the wanderer is attempting to serve in a way that would be more effective were there not that blessing present.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question.
What a great question, Alice. Thank you for asking it. Kathleen, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Hi, yes, thank you. Hi, Jim. Good morning, everyone.
Good
Great
morning.
to be here and great to see you. It's so strange. It's that I didn't even know this meeting was being held today, and I had a dream about you last night, Jim, where we were cooking together. It's just the whole thing of my lifetime has been associated with food, and we were eating these seafood delicacies and you were pointing out that there were certain ones that were better for us than others and things like that in the dream. It was so funny. I was like, wow, that's an off the wall one. But on a more serious note, my question has to do with the ritual of fire. I have been studying the raw material and particularly all of the information regarding healing that you've given a plethora of that I've been really trying to soak it all in and to truly and genuinely evaluate my own commitment to the healing work. And bar everything else, there is nothing more on this earth in this lifetime that I would like to do than to be a channel for the healing of the one infinite creator for those who ask. And I've had the great fortune of having a few particular individuals who have asked for prayer and who I have agreed to pray for on a regular basis, who have terminal illnesses or what they're called terminal illnesses and have had beautiful results. And I know I'm not doing that healing myself. I'm just a conduit for it. And I'm wondering, and I've wondered this for quite some time, if there is a particular criteria for qualification for the information that Ra gave regarding the ritual of fire for facilitating the healing work more efficaciously. Thank you.
Yes, you can email contact@llresearch.org and ask that very question that you just now asked me. And they will forward your email to me. And then I will email you and we will begin a communication. The first of which would be to have you study the healing information in sessions 4, 5, and 6 for 6 months. And then the next thing would be to uh, go back and forth with email communication as to how you wish to use the information. And then very likely it would be granted. That's the process that we've used for a number of years now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so very much. I am really enthused about this work, and I do see that the more I get out of the way, the more the infinite creator can do the work through me with all of the intentions being aligned between those that are accepting and asking for the healing and those who assist us in the work itself. So thank you so very much, Jim.
Well, thank you. And it sounds like your healing is a very inspiring experience already.
It really is. It's so rewarding, and I'm so lifted up when I see even a tiny bit of movement that indicates that it's working famously. And I'm very proud and very honored and humbled by the opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. I see Josh next, and then Mimi, and then Neely had sent in a question by email that I wanted to ask on her behalf. Josh, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
I think Wes is before me. Wes
Oh,
Geet.
I'm sorry. Wes, did you have a question?
I do. Thank you, Josh. My question is about lying. And of course, lying is a pretty fundamental aspect of this particular reality that we third density beings inhabit. And there also seems to be an assumption in the channeled material that entities of other densities cannot lie directly, even something as simple as saying, yes, this is I am quo, when they are in fact some other entity. And I know that I have a tendency to trust that, but I was curious enough about it to do a search, and I couldn't find any reference to lying or any obligation to tell the truth. So my question of you, Jim, is there any direct statement that they can or cannot lie to us when we are channeling?
It has always been our presumption that entities in the higher densities can indeed lie. As Carla said, it is a crowded universe, and that we need to be able to discover whether or not they are lying before we ever channel them. And the way Carla said that we needed to do it, and the way she trained all the people that ever, learned how to channel from her, was to discover what it is within your being that is most important to you as a spiritual seeker. Now, for Carla, that was Jesus. And then, whenever any entity wants to channel through you, you challenge them in the name of Jesus. And can they say, Jesus is Lord? Do you believe that Jesus Christ is the Lord and Savior? And she would do it 3 times. And I have decided that that's the way that I want to do it too. I used to challenge in the name of the Christ consciousness, but now I also challenge in the name of Jesus Christ. So by doing that, then the entities cannot lie. If you allow them to channel through you without challenging them, they can lie if they're negative entities. But if you challenge them, then they cannot lie. Because what you are doing, for example, by challenging in the name of Jesus Christ, is you are putting Jesus right next to you, and they cannot lie to Jesus. Now, if Buddha is your challenge, the same there. Whatever it is that you choose is the heart of your being, that which you would you gladly live for, and if necessary, would gladly die for. That is the strength of the challenge. And then entities cannot lie. And we do that every time. We don't assume that, well, just because we challenged Crow last session, we don't have to challenge them this time. We challenge them every time that they want to channel through us. Even if we have gone around the circle of channels 1 or 2 times, we always challenge every time the contact is renewed.
Thank you. That was beautiful and powerful, and I do the challenge, so that affirms what I've been doing as well. And I've had the experience of having the entity simply disappear, or occasionally say something like, "Well, that stuff doesn't matter. You don't need to worry about that." In which case, I decline their invitation to communicate. So I really appreciate that confirmation. Thank you very much.
I would also like to add that, are you channeling by yourself or with others? Do you have a group?
I channel mostly by myself.
Well, it has, now this may not always be true, but what we always discovered here at LL Research is that if we were channeling sources exterior to the planet, we had to have at least 3 people there to provide protection for the instrument and to generalize the information. Now, if you're channeling any of your guides, you can do that without having to have any other people with you. You can do that by yourself. So I don't know if you know who you're channeling or what, but that would be my suggestion.
I appreciate that very much. Yes, I know sometimes that I'm channeling my higher self, and there are other times when the entity does not have a specific identity that they offer to me. I have begun channeling with my partner as well, but yeah, listening to that and from my reading as well, it sounds like very strongly advisable to incorporate or include a third person in the group. So thank you again.
No, thank you.
Andy, did you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I did. Hello, everyone. Yeah, Jim, you mentioned before that like you didn't have your Jesus experience till later. So, who did you call on before you had your Jesus experience? Who did you call on? I mean, you mentioned before, you call on an entity or something that you would die for. And so the second follow-up question is, what if you just don't mind dying at all and you just die for whatever because it's like, oh well, I've had a good innings. I don't really care. Yeah.
So what exactly is your question? Who I challenged before Jesus?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, there's something you would die for bit where, if you just if you just die for whatever.
I challenged in the name of the Christ consciousness, just a generalized nature of Jesus. But I was not, that's my cat. I did not have any particular way of looking at dying. I didn't think about it at that time. At that time, Carla had not incorporated that particular concept to live and die. It was in 2008 when she created this process that we are all using now to become instruments or channels. And so it was at that time that I thought more about that quality. And at that time, it was still the Christ consciousness. It wasn't until 2016, August 31st, that I felt Jesus moving into my heart. And I knew then that I would always challenge in the name of Jesus Christ. And if it was, it is just a theoretical assumption that you're making. It's not something you're liable to have to do. So it's not something you have to feel like, well, when would it be okay to die? It's not likely to ever happen.
It's a great question, Andy. Did you have any follow-ups on your follow-up?
No, not. I just want. I mean, I'm not interested in channeling at all. I find the whole thing a bit frightening, actually. But occasionally, when I do meditate, I get things coming through, and I'm like, I feel like I should challenge them because the thoughts and ideas, and sometimes I think, okay, that doesn't feel quite right, or sometimes I think, oh wow, that's amazing, but then my mind creeps in, and it's like, oh, is that true? So I challenge when I get things coming to me when I'm meditating, but I don't really want to be a channeler, if that makes sense. But I also kind of feel like everything is channeled anyway, like just me being here is kind of like a channeling of sorts.
Yeah, we're all channeling our lives, but we're doing it by ourselves. Usually, occasionally guidance helps us with coincidences and synchronicities.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for your question.
And thank you, Josh, for waiting. Did you have a question you wanted to ask, Josh?
Yes. Hi, Jim.
Hello again, Josh.
Thank you so much for letting us in for homecoming. At homecoming, Lily and Kent and maybe some others had mentioned this recent interview of a gentleman who's an actor called Terrence Howard, who has read and has studied Walter Russell's material on like metaphysics and physics. And I'm curious your thoughts on these emerging 4D maybe technologies that are based around new understandings or old understandings of universal laws that our modern science and academia does not embrace or acknowledge. like anti-gravity or zero-point energy, etc. And since now, especially with this podcast, and a lot more people on the planet are becoming more aware or finding out these things. So would you say, my question is it worth for individuals to dive into this and try to push humanity's technology forward, or rather focus on making the choice and spiritual evolution and being unconditional loving and service when requested?
I think this is something that each seeker has to decide for itself, because we've all come here with pre-incarnated choices as to ways that we want to be of service. And those ways usually present themselves to us in one way or another that we may or may not recognize when they come in. And I think that meditation upon whatever new avenue of discovery or information or learning that you want to pursue is a way to discover whether it's right for you. Personally, I did attempt to join a study group that Walter Russell was the author of the Secrets of Light. And fortunately, the fellow who was facilitating the group also was a Law of One student, and he could translate some of the concepts that Walter Russell was talking about that were way beyond my head or my mind to the Law of One. So I really appreciated so much of what I was able to learn, but I did not feel after going through the course that it was really something I wanted to pursue. So I would recommend, now, since this was a friend of mine that was facilitating it, I didn't meditate on whether or not I should do it. I just wanted to be part of the group. So that's my suggestions. Look at the material, meditate on it, see what your intuition is or what a guidance might say to you, and then make your choice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh.
Great question as always, Josh. Thank you. I did want to read a question that was emailed to us by a friend, Neely, and then I have Mimi and Raquel, and I think those were all the questions that I saw in the chat window. And we do have time. I did want to encourage folks who are here on the Zoom call, if you have a question that you'd like to ask, please go ahead, put it in the chat window, and we'll make sure that you have time to do that. Otherwise, I do remember that Renat also had a second question she wanted to ask, and should have time for that. So Jim, our friend Neely sent in a question, and I'll just read it to you as is. At the end of session 104, Ra says, I am Ra. We leave you in appreciation of the circumstances of the great illusion in which you now choose to play the pipe and timbrel and move and rhythm. We are also players upon a stage. The stage changes, the acts ring down, the lights come up once again, and throughout the grand illusion and the following, there is the undergirding majesty of the one infinite creator. All is well, nothing is lost. Go forth rejoicing in the love and the light, the peace and the power of the one infinite creator. Neely says, I was wondering about this out of character ending statement to the session and thought it may be some sort of farewell from Ra, saying goodbye to Don and maybe encouraging words to Jim and Carla prior to Don's passing, like they already knew the Ra contact was about to come to an end. Can you comment on this?
I believe that was the session where we were questioning Ra about our cat Gandalf.
Yes.
Gandalf was going blind, and we were considering moving to another location. And so I think they were talking about Gandalf's passing. And that was what actually occurred after we moved to another location. But I think that in actually the 106, they did sort of mention the possibility that Don it would be possible for him to become dysfunctional mentally and emotionally. And that eventually did happen. So that was where Rod did refer to Don and potentially his passing. But in the quote there from 104, I believe that was Gandalf.
Indeed. Yes, that was the session. There were quite a few questions about Gandalf in there. Thank you for that. And Neely, I hope that answers your question. And if not, you can ask some follow-ups next time. Mimi, thank you for being patient. Did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I wanted to first follow up on Wes and Andy's questions about channeling. Jim, as you know, I had the delight of meeting the Phoenix Law One study group. They've been meeting steadily for years. I was amazed. They're a very tight group, very nice and diverse, very artistic group of people, artists, writers, and musicians. And we started talking about channeling near the end of our long lunch. And they all channel to some extent, whether they're channeling their creativity or they are getting messages. They all meditate. And so they are all pretty tuned in, and they meditate together at the beginning and the end of their Zoom sessions. So I was wondering, this came up. I said, like, well, I'm just starting to channel, verbally, which is different for me. And I feel less certain about the messages I'm getting when I do it verbally. Sometimes it just flows really naturally, and other times I'm just like, am I just reaching? Am I just making this up? So, I know a lot of discernment is involved in channeling, and I'm just wondering, how do you know you're getting what you're getting and you're not just making it up?
The way I have discovered that for myself is to go back and to read the sessions and discover that there's things in there that I had never thought of before. Did that come out of me? Was that something that I knew? I don't think so. Yeah. For others, they may or may not feel like they're actually channeling. I think that everybody that in our channeling circle has been doing it long enough that they've had that same experience, that the information that they are given is something that they did not know beforehand, at least in the detail in which it was given or the application in which it was given. So I think that it's something that each instrument has to determine for itself. And that's all
I guess that's what I do. That's what I do too. But I guess I just have to accept that there's a certain amount of me that's going to be mixed into it, because I'm coming up with the words, and it's going to take a while, I think, before I can really purely channel spirit and not have it be what I'm thinking it should be or will be or expect. There's no projection of my ego in there.
Right.
Is that accurate?
I believe that's accurate. I think that all of us who are conscious channels are channeling a lot of information that we are familiar with. And so we would naturally say, well, that, I didn't really channel that. But, again, we all have a spiritual path that is recognized by the Confederation. And if you're channeling any source from the Confederation, they use part of your information. If you're channeling your guide, they do the same thing. I mean, we have our vocabulary, we have our language, we have our experiences. All of those are building blocks that an entity channeling through you can use to give more information, to expand upon, to go further with. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. Well, we talked about channeling together, to kind of help each other discern. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm just getting to know them, and I think they're a really great group. So, and they were thrilled that you were the one who told me about them. They were amazed that you would notice them. So it was kind of sweet.
Yeah, thanks. Well, glad it's going well.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Thank you, Mimi. I see Raquel, and then a question from Tom and Daniel and Casey and Robin. Raquel, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
I will. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Hi, Jim. Thank you so much for being here. As usual, the beautiful energy exchange that you share with us. We all appreciate it. I did want to say I saw you performing the banishing ritual, and you were gangster. I was like, go Jim. You were so like gangster. Like, okay, Jim, now I know why you were like, you were part of you really know what you're doing with that one. So I commend you on like performing it really well and being so strong and putting on your white magical personality. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, my question is about and if you can just share with me specifically how Carla handled loving without expectations. I know this was one of her life challenges this lifetime, and I feel like it's one of mine as well. I'm somebody who likes to give and share information and be, offer my service. However, hey, thank you, I love you, back. I'm just looking for like no harm, but I find like when you share or offer your service, like some entities want to be harmful to you in a way. And I just wonder how Carla handled like loving without any expectations, even when it wasn't of a good nature and a return back to her.
Well, I think that most of us as spiritual seekers are attempting to do that because we want to be of service to others, and we don't look for anything back from that service. And when we get down to a specific person or time or experience, sometimes we're not able to do that. And the fact that we weren't able to do it is maybe something that we could meditate on and see why we're expecting something back. And I think that that's basically the way that Carla did it. She knew that there were so many times that she had opportunities to serve. And I think for the most part, she never did expect anything in return. On occasion, for some reason, she might. And then again, she would meditate on it and see, well, why did I do that then? When in general, I just want to be of service with everything I do, everything I think, everything I could ever imagine. And in fact, I think she was so good at doing that that Ra, in a couple of places, kind of suggested to her that maybe giving so much was maybe the path of the martyr. And if you follow that path too long, the Ra contact might come to an end. So in general, I think that she was not expecting anything in return. Whenever she did, she meditated on it.
Okay. So yeah, because I'm not expecting, and I'm definitely not following the path of the martyr. I have balanced wisdom with love and understanding, and that I felt I had to work on a lot because, giving of yourself too much is not good as well. So I'm definitely balancing that, but I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't expecting once I offered my service, that I just didn't want to have an expectation. But I did feel like, okay, I offered my service in pure love, that I didn't want to be harmed in return by that entity, if that makes any sense. Like you do something good for someone and then they turn around and like try to stab you in the back or something. Like I just wanted to make sure there was a balance where I wasn't I guess that there was an expectation of like, don't harm me because I'm not harming you. So I just wanted to make sure that wasn't wrong to have that expectation, but I will meditate on that to make sure that's, to balance that, I guess.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your feedback.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you indeed, Raquel. Tom had a question, but actually had to leave the meeting early. So if you don't mind, Jim, I will read it on his behalf. It was about cats. Jim, Tom was asking, does your cat ever capture other creatures and harm them unintentionally or perhaps intentionally? Our cat does it almost every day, and I struggle with this, trying to use it as a catalyst. But it does make me sad by these small entities being harmed. I don't want to shame or punish the cat with my feelings, but curious if you've ever had to deal with this with your cats.
Yes, I had an outdoor cat a couple of years ago who passed away. And for all his life, as he was outside, he would be killing some kind of a creature. I remember seeing him once catching a chipmunk as I was out filling the bird feeder. And I thought, oh no. But, they're predators. That's their nature. And as Carla said, nature is red in tooth and claw. It is the way things are there. And we have to accept that. And so I could not punish the cat. It wouldn't do any good. It would just hurt him and maybe destroy our relationship. So it's one of the things of this world that we need to accept. And there's a lot in this world we need to accept. People preying upon each other one way or another. And we can't do anything about it, but we can pray for them. And maybe you could pray for the creatures that your cat kills. Whenever I found one of those creatures, whether it was a rabbit or a chipmunk or a baby squirrel, I would bury it in my pet cemetery and pray for it that it might come back again in its group form and share the love and light of the Creator with once again.
Indeed, thank you. That's a great question, Tom. Thank you for asking. Whoa, and I see a couple follow-ups on that. Kathleen, follow-up question?
Yes, thank you very much. I have a kind of a conundrum with creatures. I mean, I love all creatures, every last little blessed one of them. Ants, it doesn't matter what it is. But I'm doing gardening and I do it for my winter food. And I have a real problem with raccoons. And I'm trying to find a loving way of dealing with them in spite of the fact that they're digging up things. I put a fence all the way around my garden and I hated to have to, but it's difficult for me to be loving towards these creatures when there's so much destruction going on. They trashed my porch and tore apart a bunch of seed that I was about to put in this morning. I had it all ready with all my tools. And I'm trying to figure out how to, incorporate the love and light of the one infinite creator with these critters, which I love, but they're just destroying so many things. I want to paint my porch and I know they're going to trash it. So do you suggest have-a-hearts and remove them to elsewhere, or any ideas would be really appreciated? Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I have used have-a-heart traps myself for raccoons in the past, and I've tried to take them a far enough distance out into the countryside that they won't be a problem for anybody else. That's about the best that I can say right now. I have deer that occasionally like to eat my flowers, but I've discovered a repellent, which is basically putrefied eggs that they don't seem to like for most of the season. Sometimes kind of wears off. That's really, I know what you're going through and what you're feeling. And the have-a-heart trap is the best that I've come up with so far.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank
Bless
you.
their little masked bandit hearts.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great question, Kathleen. Thank you. Linda, did you also have a follow-up question?
Yeah, Jim, I often, when I'm dealing with my dogs, ask my higher power to work with their higher power, the ones that have the souls, because they're insulated, I believe now. Have you ever done that as a way of modifying their behavior or attempting to, making the request of them?
Of any pet, you mean? Like
Yeah.
a cat?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Don't kill
I
other.
haven't. I think it's a great thought. I wish I had known it before. Thank you for sharing it. No, I've never tried that.
Okay.
Thank you, Linda. Let's see, we have time for 3 more questions from Daniel, Casey, and then Robin, and then we are going to wrap it up for today. Daniel, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Jim. I have a question to the house of the raw material. We went where material was channeled. We went there last Sunday, and I just wanted to know the room of the channeling. Was it on the long side of the L-shaped house?
Yes. If you were you at the driveway looking up at the house?
We were right in front of the house.
Okay, yeah, it was on the right side of the house, the corner of the right side.
Mm-hmm.
That was the raw room, and then the next room was Don's bedroom, and then there was a guest room, and then there was a bathroom there too.
Okay. Do you know the current owner of the house?
No,
Okay.
but I understand though that Trish has got a connection with the real estate agencies in general, that if that house should ever go up for sale, that we would have a chance to come over and take a look at it as if we might be potential buyers. So
Oh, great. That's good news. What I was seeing is supposed to be a museum, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Say hi to
Always
Tatiana.
great. Always great to see you, Daniel. Thank you for joining us today. Casey, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Okay, yes. Hi, Jim. I'm trying to get clear on the concept of a social memory complex, but I don't see anything in the material that goes into it at any depth. And I'm wondering if there is a resource, if you've ever had conversations amongst yourself, or if that concept has ever come up in any of the quote channelings, that just dives into it a bit more. I'm specifically interested in why it happens in fourth density, specifically more so than fifth. I think I read that or heard that on one of your talks. Can you go into that a bit?
Well, I believe there is a place in the raw contact where the nature of the social memory complex is mentioned. I think it's if you Google Akashic records, you would get more information. So basically, what the social memory complex is, the third density entities that have decided to be of service to others in more than 51%, if they are able to be harvested then into the fourth density, then they will discover each other and will have their total memories of every incarnation available to each other as a huge library of information upon which any one of them or all of them can call on for service to others. Because once a social memory complex is created, then they continue forward on their journey by continuing to be of service to others, basically by looking back, shall we say, to the third density where there may be a call for service. And then they would answer that either perhaps as being a wanderer or as a contact that a channel in third density could channel, or just sending love and light to the planet. But basically, what makes a social memory complex is just imagine you've had probably thousands, all of us have had thousands of incarnations. And if every experience you had in every incarnation was combined with every experience everybody else had, like if for Ra was 6,500,000, what a library of information you would have to call upon. That would be the social memory complex.
So it comes from your saying our own soul complex of incarnations.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that begins to address it a little bit more in my mind. Yeah, it's what I think is happening through a skill I have with crystals, in which I'm bringing through a lot of entities. I believe I'm actualizing that and meeting them face to face, which is why I'm looking more into the concept to see exactly what it is. I understand the idea of a group soul, of course, but I was always wondering where the entities that comprise specifically what they're conceptualizing as a social memory complex. Is there any differentiation between that and just any other collective consciousness idea? Is there anything that discerns it, or are these equal?
Well, in the higher densities, it's a telepathic knowing and perceiving and using of that information. A collective group here on our planet in third density would not be able to do that in most cases.
Casey, I would encourage you to also check out the library at the LNO Research website. They have a concept guide that was written by Gary Bean with help from Diana Roy. And there is a chapter on social memory complexes that I'm pretty sure would help answer a good number of your questions. Thank you.
Good thought.
We have time for one more question, and that is from Robin. Robin, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Thank you, Jonathan. Yes, I do. Jim, it's really cool to cross paths with you in this, and I've grown to know your voice very well over the past 4.5 years, thanks to the audio book for the Raw Contact. It's my favorite resource in the world for anything. So thank you.
Well,
Much gratitude for that. My question, it's regarding Raw's balancing exercise for anger in session 46.9. When I revisit an angry moment that I had earlier in the day, I'm experiencing difficulty isolating the anger in mind alone. I guess I'm feeling it in my body, and I don't do that or manifest anywhere. So, do you have any tips with respect to this?
How to balance anger?
Yeah, in mind alone.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question for me because I didn't have much luck with balancing it even during the raw contact. Um, for me, it was a lifelong experience. It was something that I wasn't able to balance until I was 68 years old. And I think it happened in a way it was supposed to happen. In general, anger, I attempted to balance it over the years by using love or acceptance rather than, in the balance of anger. And for me, it didn't work. And I think the reason it didn't work is that it was meant to be a lifelong lesson, not something that I could learn quickly. I don't know if that's the case for you or for anybody else, but if you're not having success in balancing it, I think it might possibly be something that's happening, and that your desire to eventually balance the anger, to deal with it, is what will help you to find that point that perhaps the same thing will happen for you that happened for me. And it happened by, not exactly by itself, but it happened out of the blue. I had no idea it was going to happen the way it did.
So glad that it did for you. And your words reminded me that life is, some things are a process sometimes and not an event. So thank you.
Yep. Just keep working on it.
It's a great question. Thank you, Robin. We are about at the end of our time for today, which means we have just about enough time for a little pop quiz, just to add a little bit of laughter and levity to our otherwise serious questions about metaphysical things and such. Let's see. Jim, as you may or may not remember, Latwii at one time said, "The greatest lessons are those learned by balanced souls, and usually the balance of an incarnated soul is the product of a generous sprinkling of the small vices, excesses, and overages of your earth." Today, we're going to ask you 3 multiple questions about some of those vices. See how many you can answer correctly. The points, of course, don't matter. If you had fun, you won. Are you ready for your first question?
Yep.
Okay. Your first question: the oldest beer brewery in the world was found where? Was it A, India, B, Israel, or C, Iran?
Iran.
C is good guess, but the correct answer is in fact Israel. About 6 years ago, researchers found a prehistoric burial site in a cave in modern day Israel and found residue of 13,000-year-old beer that they think might have been used for ritual feasts or something to honor the dead.
Was it still liquid?
I don't think so. I think it was dried up. I don't know how they determined it was beer, but
really?
apparently, yeah, it was some sort of residue that I guess they identified as such.
Probably didn't taste it.
Yeah, no, probably tasted like Budweiser would be my guess. Whoops, incoming.
Spam.
Spam. I seem to remember you're mentioning to me a month or 2 ago that there was a time when you enjoyed rum. Am I correct in remembering that? And would you mind sharing a little bit about what's the deal with that? Were you a pirate in a previous incarnation or something?
No, I was in college. And yeah, that was back in, let's see, 69, 70. And I like Singapore slings, which are made of 3 different kinds of rum.
Oh, interesting.
But I don't drink anything these days.
And no, I would imagine not. But am I remembering correctly that Don and Carla were both known to enjoy a bit of alcohol at some point during the raw contact during those years?
Occasionally, I think Carla, what was it that she liked? Vodka.
Vodka.
She liked vodka.
And Don also?
Actually, I don't remember Don drinking, but he probably did.
Interesting. I think I had.
Wait. Yeah. I just no.
It was a long time ago, to be
Well,
sure.
this is something I just heard about. I didn't know about it.
Oh, interesting.
When he was 26 years old, Don decided that he didn't want to be affected by the people. He saw people around him being taken way high with joy and way low with depression. He didn't want to be going up and down with his emotions. And so he decided he was going to be just an observer. Now, unfortunately, that was closing his heart. So later on, it came open wide. But one night after the meditations were over, there was beer passed around, and this lovely lady was part of the meditation group, came over and sat in his lap. And Don had been drinking, she'd been drinking, and he said, "I am just an observer."
That is hilarious. And was Carla in the room at the time?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure she was.
Oh, interesting. And how did she respond to that?
I don't know. I didn't hear that part. This was just a story I heard. I wasn't there.
Oh, interesting. Wow. That is a great story. Well, are you ready for your second question?
I am ready.
As of April 2024, how many states in the US have legalized marijuana for recreational use? Is it A, 16, B, 20, or C, 24?
B.
B is a good guess. Correct answer is, in fact, 24. 24 for recreational use, and if you add the states that have legalized it for medicinal use, if not recreational, that comes out to about 37, which is well over half.
Yeah.
And I'm remembering correctly, as you were part of the hippie generation, so-called hippie generation, did you ever consume cannabis at any point?
Of course I did.
Of course I did. At the same time that you were drinking rum? Or was this
No,
separate?
it was later. I grew my own when I lived on the land in central Kentucky.
Wow.
But I also stopped using that in 2016.
Oh, interesting. Wow. Was growing it difficult? Was that easy for you?
It was fairly easy to grow. My neighbor had some kids that kept trying to steal it.
Oh, interesting. Wow. And did Carla or Don ever partake?
Well, Carla did from time to time, but Don, I don't think Don ever did. I think, in fact, when there's one place in the raw material, they mentioned that certain things that would not be helpful to be used in the raw contact is used channeling, and they mentioned that she had never used marijuana, although she had used LSD a couple of times, and they had to cut the session short because it had depleted her vital energy.
I can imagine that. Yeah, big difference between those two. Interesting. Let's see. Are you ready for your last question?
Yep, I'm 0 for 2 so far.
That's okay. Like I said, if you had fun, you won.
Then I won.
Good, good. Basketball legend Michael Jordan also had a legendary gambling addiction and was known to bet on pretty much anything. So your question is, Michael Jordan once won a bet on what with his Chicago Bulls teammates at the Portland airport? Was it A, the exact time their plane would touch down, B, the gate number for their arrival, or C, whose luggage would come out of baggage claim first?
A.
A is a good guess. Unfortunately, the correct answer was C.
Oh.
He did win the bet, but that was after secretly bribing the baggage handler to make sure that his luggage actually came out first.
That wasn't a bet.
Well, yes, like I said, yeah. If you research Michael Jordan, he had quite a bit of a problem with it.
I had no idea. I never heard that about him.
I didn't either. I'm not a huge basketball fan. I only discovered this in the course of writing this pop quiz. Am I guessing that neither you or Don or Carla had any particular history of gambling or playing poker or buying lottery tickets or anything?
No, none.
One of my favorite stand-up comedians, Norm Macdonald, once had a joke about gambling. Apparently, there's a guy who had a serious gambling problem, and he was telling his friend, And I had a terrible day today. I lost 10 out of 10 bets on football. I lost 8 out of 8 on baseball, lost 6 out of 6 on soccer. I don't know what I'm going to do. His friend said, well, there's a hockey game on tonight. The guy says, I don't know anything about hockey.
Then bet on that.
Yeah, exactly.
If you think you know something, you're probably wrong.
Exactly. Well, I know it's been a joy and a privilege and an honor as always to hang out with you today, Jim. Thank you so much for giving your time and sharing your love and wisdom with us today. Did you have any last thoughts or reflections to share before we part ways for today?
Well, thank you all for your questions. I'm always inspired by people's spiritual path and how it, manifests in one way or another that has a question mark on it. And I think sometimes asking the question is the most important part of our spiritual path. Whether you get the answer you were looking for or not, asking questions is what we do here in the third density. Hopefully, if we're conscious spiritual seekers of truth. I mean, we have to figure out our life pattern. And I think a few folks today were asking questions that were aimed at just doing that. And I hope that my answers had some help as one facet of the jewel of the answer. And keep asking. And I'll keep trying to give answers. And I remind you, it's always my personal opinion.
It's such a joy and a privilege and honor to walk this path with you and to learn together, my friend. Love you much. Thank you so much for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. Thank you to all our friends at L&L Research for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. Thank you for all who joined on this Q&A today. Thank you for your wonderful, beautiful questions and your heart and soul and your vibrations. And thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. And to all who are watching this on YouTube at some future nexus of time, space, and space-time, thank you for being here. We're thinking of you as well. Thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. Until next time, in the love and light of the one infinite creator. Adonai. Namaste.
Love you all. Love you all. Have a great day.
Much love and light.
Bye.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Nice to see you. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Adonai.